Welcome back to Sober Kart. Mario Kart World is already revealing secrets, and most people haven't even noticed. With Mario Kart World Direct right around the corner on April 17th, everyone's waiting for Nintendo to show what's next. But a lot has already slipped through the cracks. In this video, we're breaking down subtle clues and strange details from every available source, not just Nintendo's trailers, but from on-hand footage at the Switch 2 Experience events. We're not just talking about obvious stuff like new cups or widely shown gimmicks like wall riding and rail grinding. We're talking about NPCs doing things they've never done before, vehicles appearing where they shouldn't, glitches in map transitions, environmental edits that don't match surrounding terrain, and subtle gameplay features that might be pointing towards a true story mode hidden beneath the surface. We're also not going over the 50 confirmed characters, nor the hidden maps that we mentioned in our last video. This time we've gone much deeper, and what we found could hint at new game mechanics, open world secrets, or even a narrative experience we haven't seen in Mario Kart before. This is everything you have probably missed in Mario Kart World. Before we jump into the deep analysis, I want to give a huge shout out to the creators whose gameplay footage helped bring this breakdown together. Massive thanks to Game X-Plane, Getting Mad Z, Tris Falbuna, Silver, and Kirby GCN17. Their channels are all linked in the description below, and if you'd like to watch full, uninterrupted gameplay or dive deeper into their playthroughs from their Switch 2 Experience events, go show them some love. I've done my best to try and use as little footage from their videos as possible, just enough to highlight a few key points that I couldn't cover without. So please go check them out and support their work. Let's begin simple with some item mechanics that most people completely overlooked. Starting with the lightning bolt, at first glance it seems like the same classic item, but in Mario Kart World it behaves very differently. It no longer shrinks you for very long. In most clips the effects just last a second or two. It only affects players ahead of the user, racers behind are completely untouched, and in some situations it can even be dodged if you're under a bridge or overpass when it hits. And that's just the start, because this item also seems to interact with the environment. In the icy region near Starview Peak, a lightning strike triggers a sudden heavy snowstorm, characters get visibly coated in snow, and even seem to move more sluggishly. One racer gets bumped into by the lightning user, and then they freeze too. At first I thought this was just a part of the environment until the snow disappears as the kart gains altitude. That's not map scripting, that's a dynamic item interaction. Compare that to the footage on the beach track where the lightning has no weather effect at all, or another section of the map where it simply enhances existing rain. This tells me that the lightning in this game does more than just shrink players. It changes the race depending on where it's used. That's a serious shift in strategy. And speaking of strategy, the Mega Mushroom is back, and it's even more powerful. You can't be shrunk by lightning. Shells bounce right off of it. If you're going off-road terrain, it doesn't even slow you down. If you can time this right in a crowded pack, it turns you into a bulldozer. This item is probably one of the most dangerous ones in the game. Now, what caught my attention even more is what happens after, because this ties into something a little bit more hidden. Traction. If you look at the kart stat screen in any available footage, you'll notice traction isn't listed anymore. Not visually anyways. Could it be removed? Maybe. Or maybe it's now a hidden stat working behind the screens, and we know Nintendo loves keeping things behind the curtain. We know terrain transforms your vehicle. When you enter the water, your tires morph into boat-like rigs, but if you slow things down and watch closely, your tires can change when you go off-road as well, getting thicker, wider, or even slicker depending on what surface you're on. This could mean traction is now handled automatically. And it might explain something else I noticed. When racing across water, it actually seems slower, even in a straight line. There are clips where the most direct path is across a shallow water section, but racers who take different paths on land end up pulling ahead. That suggests water might carry a penalty, even though it looks optimal, adding a layer of depth and route choice we haven't even seen before. Now, while most people are focused on racing footage, there are actually some really interesting details hiding in the game interface as well. Stuff that could have major implications for how Mario Kart World actually plays. Let's start with the main menu. It's extremely bare, probably because this was a demo build, but there are still a few standout clues. One big one, the ability to switch your split screen layout between vertical and horizontal. It might sound minor, but for handheld or smaller TVs, this is a huge quality of life upgrade, and there's a down arrow underneath it suggesting additional display or camera customization options that weren't even shown yet. Now, when players select a mode, you'll notice something else. They're not being dropped off into a race right away. Instead, you go straight into free roam, wherever your character currently is. It gives the feeling that you're jumping into the world in real time, rather than just being pulled into a menued to-race pipeline. And in that same selection screen, we see the option to change your drop-off location, which means you might be able to choose where you start in the open world, or even warp between regions. This lines up with previous theories that Mario Kart World will blend racing with exploratory mechanics between events. Next, the character selection screen. Most people are just hyped about this roster, but there's also a subtle detail in the bottom right corner that could mean something much bigger. There's a sort button tied to X. Why would that even be important? You don't usually sort characters in Mario Kart, unless there's a reason to group or categorize them. Maybe based on weight class, kart capability, factions, or something else entirely. It's small, but it opens up the door for some kind of progression, unlock path, or potentially a collection system. And speaking of collection, in the treehouse footage, there's a moment, just a few frames long, almost like it slipped in by mistake, where we get a glimpse of collectibles tied to specific regions. Some of the slots are filled, but this tells us Mario Kart World isn't just about racing. It's about exploration, progression, and discovery. These 3 specific collectible items during this brief glimpse is a question panel, P-switch, and what looks like a coin featuring Peach's face. All 3 of these feel tied to classic Mario lore, but more importantly, they suggest that each region may come with its own unique set of challenges or missions. So let's just talk about this a little bit more, because the second you spot them, one big question pops up. Why are these even in Mario Kart? Let's start with the P-switch. If you've played any mainline Mario game, you already know what this does. Hitting a P-switch usually activates a short timer that either reveals hidden coins, paths, or changes the environment in some way. In older 2D titles, they transform blocks into coins or open up temporary platforms. In newer games, they've become full-on puzzle triggers. What's crazy is, in Mario Kart World, these P-switches are visible everywhere. Not as a set dressing, but as physical objects placed in multiple locations across several environments. They're just sitting there, often on elevated terrain or near alternate routes, almost like they're waiting to be interacted with. Then we have the question panels, which appear more subtly, but we spotted them tucked near landmarks or just off the main path. In core Mario titles, these usually trigger information boxes, and they've done a few different interesting things in past Mario Kart games, including just being a standard mystery box. Their presence here feels like a hint towards in-world dialogue or possibly even some objectives. And there's that strange Peach coin. We only see it once, but it clearly shows up in the Collectibles UI, so it has to be important. It's definitely not a standard coin or an item, so either it unlocks something cosmetic, or it's tied to region progression, or maybe even NPC quest lines. Now here's where things get interesting, because none of this stuff ends up in the game just by accident. These aren't just aesthetic pieces, they're interactive elements. And from a development perspective, that means a lot. To add a P-switch, a working one anyways, you need to build out logic trees, timers, triggers, animations, and consequences. That takes developers time, same with the question panels. If they trigger pop-ups or events, there has to be data driving those interactions. And tracking collectibles like the Peach coin, well, that requires a whole progression system, inventory logic, or map-based triggers to make it count in the UI. So Nintendo didn't add these things just to decorate the world. These elements require scripting, placement coordination, internal testing, and player feedback systems. That's not something you do unless there's a broader gameplay layer planned. And that layer, it's pointing directly at either a story mode or an adventure mode, possibly even some kind of mission-based exploration system. Whatever it is, it's not something we've seen in Mario Kart before, and it changes the game scope entirely. Now let's start to wrap up with one of the wildest things hiding in plain sight: rideable vehicles. Because Mario Kart World isn't just expanding the tracks, it's expanding the way we move. First up, we all know about the Big Rig 18-wheeler, which was shown directly in the official trailer, but this one isn't just for show. In follow-up gameplay, it's fully controllable, behaving like just a drivable kart, but on a much larger scale. What really makes it stand out is the way it plows through anything in its path. It's massive, powerful, and feels more like a battering ram than a traditional kart, opening up the door for entirely new gameplay mechanics depending on how long this may last. Next up, the speedboat. This one shows up in multiple areas. In at least one clip, you can see a player drive straight into it and take control. The camera swings behind the boat and the steering animations begin. This isn't a cutscene. It's clearly part of gameplay and likely tied to how we navigate large water regions of the open world. Then there's this helicopter, which shows up parked on the ground in one clip. While we never see it actually take off, it looks massive, and the bulky design in the back almost suggests space for cargo or potentially player vehicles. We can't confirm it's drivable, or I should say flyable yet, but the way it's placed, just sitting there, makes it feel like it could serve as a hub or unlockable transport later on in the game. And now finally, this UFO. This one's a bit more speculative, but it gets interesting. On the Mario Kart wiki, someone who attended the Switch 2 experience claimed that running into a glowing light beam in this certain area triggered a flyable UFO. We don't have any visual proof, or at least I haven't seen any, but in the same area there's a brief overheard conversation where a Nintendo staff member can be heard saying, "Yes, you can actually fly in this game."
If there's a plane you can get into like those, that must be sick.
Dude, you can't fly on this game.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Now, Maybe they meant gliding, or maybe it's something tied to a cinematic moment, but with boats, trucks, and possibly aircraft showing up across different regions, it's clear that Mario Kart World is building towards something far bigger than linear racetracks. This supports everything we've been seeing, from region-based collectibles and environmental triggers to player-controlled traversal and vehicle variety. Whether it's for missions, fast travel, or even part of a story campaign, these drivable elements could redefine how we experience Mario Kart. Alright. To wrap things up, here's a rapid-fire list of some amazing details in Mario Kart World that I just didn't have the time to fully dive into today. And trust me, I wish I could have. Some of these easily deserve their own segment, and few just barely didn't even make the cut, only because I didn't want this video to be an hour long. Let's kick it off with this. As you fly over the peak of Starview Mountain, take a look to your right. There's what looks like to be an entire track layout we haven't even raced on yet, and on the left, a massive Freezy just chilling near the ridge, along with roads that haven't even been seen on any Grand Prix footage. Infinite tricks? If you've got all the airtime, the game lets you keep boosting over and over. It could change how vertical sections are played. Characters and costumes seem to be unlockable through Kamek's Crystal Ball, along with various food items that may be tied to unlock requirements or bonus conditions. You can slam into lampposts, guardrails, and benches, and they'll go flying. And yes, they can slow down your opponents if timed right. Introducing what I'm just going to call an ollie can be used to dodge hazardous items. There are actual achievements tied to your total driving distance, not just race wins, distance. Why even track that unless there's even more exploration ahead? Some NPC cars can throw out different items out their windows, helping or trolling players mid-race. Boom Booms can actually be summoned by Kamek's Crystal Ball, which makes me think it's more than just RNG. Coin piles are also just scattered across free roam, just like collectibles. Battle mode is confirmed, and believe it or not, we've also heard rumors that Mario Kart has 120 FPS. There are actually rafts and random enemies, and even story-like triggers tucked into corners of the map, all hinting at deeper objectives. Spotted a train track that goes underground. Yeah, what's that about? You can bounce off NPCs in certain areas, like springboards. There are vending machines that literally pop out random mystery boxes. To reach some of the grinding rails, you actually need to ollie to hop up. It's not always automatic, meaning timing actually matters. The special vehicles, like the boats and trucks we mentioned earlier, can actually be found during the Grand Prix and Knockout mode. One of my favorites, if a bomb explodes within the ocean, it can cause an actual wave ripple that knocks racers around. That's next level environment interaction. There's also this massive DK poster board hidden behind the mountain range for some reason. The Boo item got a stealth upgrade, and now makes your items invisible to opponents while you're holding them. And yes, unlike prior footage that we've seen, bullet bills still apparently last really long, if you're bad at the game. And all the Yoshi colors are back, except for the black one. Nintendo? And finally, I'm going to leave you with a very quick clip from the Treehouse Direct that got me way too hyped about my theory on story mode.
Yeah, and once again, oh, look at this.
Just hanging out.
Oh, yeah, look out in the distance there.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's really neat. And once again, there's more to free roam mode than we're talking about here,
Yes.
so please stay tuned
Absolutely.
for the dedicated Mario Kart Direct.
And that's going to do it for this video. But before I let you go, I want to share something really exciting. I'll be attending the Nintendo Switch 2 experience in Dallas on April 27th. And yes, I'll be diving straight into Mario Kart World for as long as Nintendo lets me touch a controller. So if you've got questions, theories, or anything specific you want me to test out, whether it's gameplay mechanics, customization, or even questions about the Switch 2 itself, drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to get you the answer straight from the source. And if you made it this far, seriously, thank you. Your support means the world. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more Mario Kart World content, hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, this is just the beginning. The Mario Kart World Direct is almost here, and we'll be back with a full breakdown the second it drops. Thanks again for watching. This is SoberKart, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's-a go.